Hello, everybody. This is our first recording of the chapter readings. Chapter 12, World War II. Billy Mitchell was right. Air power changed war. In World War II, more people were killed by bombs or pieces of shells called shrapnel than by bullets. In World War II, cities were bombed, huge civilian populations were massacred. There was something else about air war. It made killing a mechanical act. Imagine being in the infantry. You see the enemy eye to eye. It makes you realize the enemy is just like you, human. Officers know that some soldiers are never going to be able to pull their triggers. They are never able to murder, even to save themselves. But a bomber pilot doesn't see his victims. A bomb can't tell the difference between an enemy soldier and a child on their way to school. It will kill them both. An enormous number of bombs were dropped by both sides during World War II. Billy Mitchell thought air power would eliminate the need for foot soldiers. He was wrong about that. There was still plenty of old fashioned infantry fighting. World War II was truly a world war. Here are just a few of the places where American troops fought. See if you can find them in the atlas. France, Germany, Tunisia, Sicily, Italy, Morocco, Burma, Guam, Malaysia, Philippine Islands, Wake Islands. Now imagine you are a general and you are planning a battle on the Pacific Island. Suppose you want to get 15,000 men onto the island and surprise the enemy. How are you going to do it? A parachute drop? Maybe. But remember, parachutes make great targets. You may be better off bringing them in by boat. Many of those islands don't have deep harbors, though. Big ships can't come in close. Can the soldiers swim in? Not with their guns and artillery, and trucks and tanks and food and ammunition and medical supplies. We're going to have to invent and develop all new kinds of landing equipment and war gear. And we're going to have to do it very fast. We'll design huge landing craft that have big rooms called holds that can be flooded to form miniature lakes so that boats can zoom out. We'll design other landing ships that will carry tanks and trucks as well as men. We'll design amphibious vehicles that will go on land or water. One of the most useful, a truck that swims, will be called a duck. Another new tough vehicle which can handle rough roads, mountain passes, and rutted fields, we'll call a jeep. We'll design superb submarines that can stay underwater for months at a time. Then we'll design torpedoes and depth charges to destroy submarines. The Axis nations will be doing the same thing. Submarine warfare will be very important in this war. German subs are called U boats, and the Atlantic Ocean is full of them. We're going to do amazing things in medical science so that diseases and infection will no longer be the major cause of wartime deaths. The lives of many badly wounded men will be saved. All through the war, we will keep improving our weapons, planes, tanks, and armored vehicles. The Germans and the Japanese have a head start on us. They will have fine scientists and technicians. This war will become a race to see who can produce the best weapons fastest. The Germans are working on rockets called V1s and V2s that are devastating. Luckily, it will take most of the war to get them perfected. When they start shooting rockets at England, there will be many, many deaths. The V2 rockets are being designed to hit the United States. We are behind on rocket development. After all, German rocket engineers will tell us they got many of their ideas by studying the work of our rocket expert, Robert Goddard. We know something that they didn't suspect we knew. They think they are smarter than we. They are wrong. We have learned to read their most difficult codes. That will prove more valuable than almost anything else we do. Have you ever tried to write in code? It's easy. Just put numbers in the place of letters and you have a code. Armies have always needed codes. Suppose a general wants to tell a faraway commander to attack. He sends a messenger, but he wants his orders in code in case the messenger is caught. He certainly doesn't want the enemy to know his plans. In George Washington's day, a screen was sometimes put over a piece of paper. There were holes in the screen. The secret message was the words that showed through the holes. Everything else was there to fool you. During World War II, both sides had huge armies and navies and tried to do it secretly. Most orders were sent by telegraph. Anyone could listen, so codes were vital. They became very complicated. The Germans and the Japanese thought no one could possibly figure out their complex codes. We cracked the Japanese secret code even before the war began. Solving the German military code was much harder. German coded messages were sent and received on special machines. Then a German tank was captured in Poland. It had a code machine inside. The machine was smuggled out of Poland to England. When it got to England, no one could figure out how to work it. The English called the code machine Enigma. An enigma is a puzzle. They put some of their best scientific and mathematical minds on the job of solving the puzzle. It was incredibly difficult. How they did it was a fascinating story. Several books have been written about it. You can find them in the library. Once the code was broken, we knew almost everything the Axis powers were planning to do. Now, we allies had to pretend we didn't know some things. We didn't want the codes to be changed. All right, now that I have some time to take a look at the captions, I'm going to go ahead and take a look here. Cryptography means code making. In World War II, code makers, who all seemed to be geniuses, created extraordinary code machines in order to write secret languages that would baffle the enemy. But code breakers, sorry, I'm going to kind of zoom in here. Oops. I apologize. But code breakers were, if anything, even smarter than code makers. Just about all the codes did get broken, except for one that stumped all the geniuses. No one could figure it out. Maybe that was because it happened to be a real language spoken by real people who were faster than any of those fancy machines. The language was Navajo, and it was spoken by 420 Marines who called themselves Denai, the people. In Western movies, Indians are usually known for their silence. These Native Americans did plenty talking. They made up their own code using their own words. Hitler was Dachalal, mustache smeller. Bombers were Jaisho, buzzards, and bombs and Aishi, eggs. Navajos landed on every major island in the Pacific. Major Howard Connor said, without the Navajo, the Marines would have never taken Iwo Jima. They were the secret weapon in the Pacific. Hundreds of Navajo speaking Marines served as radio operators in the Pacific. The code they developed using their native language was never broken. Never broken. Many women worked in the United States Marine Corps, worked in the science of cryptography, finding new ways to decode and code information. Germany's racial policies caused many of its best scientists to flee the country. That helped the Allies and it slowed Germany progress. German scientists were ahead of the Allies in developing rockets. That included the V 2 rocket, which was put into action against the Allies in September 1944. The German U boats in the Atlantic threatened the supply and troop ships throughout the war. And remember, the German U boats were their submarines. A torpedo is a giant bullet with a propeller that travels through the water and can sink a ship. U boat is the abbreviation for the German word Unterboot, which means undersea boat. In the World War II, bombs that were dropped from airplanes, like these German bombers over London, killed more people and destroyed more people than all the ground fighting. All right, that was chapter 12. Thank you for joining.